Good afternoon, everybody. This is Melanie Attwater from Power Bespoke Estate Agents on Monday, April the 6th. I hope you all got to enjoy the sunshine of the weekend. I've arranged this call today because I thought it'd be good to clarify what can and can't be done if you're thinking of moving house or you're moving house. So I'm very pleased to have Julie West from Julie West Solicitors here with me, who can answer your questions. So just quickly, Julie, so Julie West Solicitors, what services do you offer?
At my firm, Julie West Solicitors, we specialise in residential and commercial property, and we also work in the areas of wills, probate, estate administration, tax planning, lasting powers of attorney.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, and how did COVID-19 affect your business in terms of being able to operate?
The way we were operating changed rapidly over the course of about 7 days. From the evening when we had the Boris Johnson's announcement about the lockdown, we pulled out our business continuity plan that we had drawn up without a great deal of serious intention that we'd ever have to implement it. However, one of my colleagues started setting up remote working for our admin people and for our solicitors as well. And I'm happy to say that in the course of 24 hours, we were all talking to each other. We were video conferencing each other. We were sharing documents, sharing resources, sharing the diary, sharing the critical dates diary, all the things that enable us to work as property solicitors and private client solicitors.
Great.
So that was absolutely fantastic.
Wow, that's fantastic. That is great to hear. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours. So you say you're virtually, literally, operating as normal as can be?
I would say so. I mean, we're receiving emails, receiving phone calls, taking on new work. The exchanges and completions that we had in the diary have happened.
Brilliant.
We had 4 completions on one day. So I mean, obviously it's a lot more difficult than usual, but happily we're not at a shutdown.
Brilliant. Okay, so that leads me on very nicely on to, so what can and can't be done right now in terms of if people have exchanged or if they haven't?
Okay, so we've had quite helpful guidelines from the government, as has everyone involved in residential property transactions, surveyors, lenders, estate agents. If you've already exchanged contracts, what the government is asking everybody to do is to hold fire. And the first sort of reaction should be to try and vary the contract to allow you to delay completion. This is important because the links in the chains are fragile. Will the mortgage monies be available? Will removal men be available? Will you be able to move house without breaking the rules about social distancing? All of these things make it all even more precarious than it can sometimes seem. Okay,
and so in what situations is it made smoother, i.e. that things can move forward in your view?
Well, the transactions that have a green light, so to speak, are those, first of all, where there's an empty property, say a probate sale, or where you're moving into an empty property. And so like home equity, where it's a property transaction, it's a completion, but actually all you're doing is giving a mortgage and receiving a capital sum in return. So these sorts of things are going on.
Super. Okay. And in the case of, say, an elderly couple who might be moving into a retirement home, what would be the situation there?
Well, although the general rule is delay, put off completion if you can, in the case of what would be described as a critical home move, where for any one of a number of reasons it's absolutely imperative that this transaction goes ahead, there is an exemption. Right. And in those circumstances, if it's critical for the individual to complete the sale of their property, then we can facilitate that.
Fantastic.
And if even with the government's guidance to delay, if we receive instructions from a client to progress a transaction irrespective of the government guidelines, then that is what we must do. Yes. And then the procedure all switches to, well, how can we make this safe?
Okay.
So, for example, if you're moving into a property, you must have a deep clean. The removal men must observe social distancing.
Yes. Okay. So we've got questions coming in, which is wonderful. We have Rob Wells. What is the situation with regard to searches right now?
Searches is a rapidly changing situation. In the case of local authority searches, some local authorities are just not progressing them at all. Others are progressing them slowly. And so the search companies are working hard to develop alternatives, usually insurance-based, to enable transactions to proceed, but without the benefit of the information that's normally obtained through conveyancing searches.
Right, okay, so we're all learning very fast how to deal with this. So,
yeah, very much so.
Thank you, John Attridge. He says, I'm due to convert leasehold into freehold. There are 5 stakeholders in the property. Should we delay? If so, is there a freeze on the leasehold price?
Not entirely sure quite what this transaction entails. It may involve the surrender of an existing lease and effectively purchasing the freehold. And if that's the case, then I would say this is exactly the sort of transaction that should be progressing. It's similar to lease extensions,
yes,
or leaseholders exercising the right to manage or the right to acquire the freehold. These should all be capable of being progressed in a relatively normal way, although quite how the fine print of the legislation will be applied and interpreted remains to be teased out in every single case.
Okay, so I guess that's at the moment for people, every situation, for people to contact somebody like yourself who can give them advice about specific situations, but things are able to be done.
The challenge may be actually finding a solicitor in the first place, and if you've ended up stuck with a solicitor who's actually shut up shop, in reliance on the government guidelines saying that's what they're required to do, then remember that you are entitled to move your instructions to a different solicitor, and they should arrange for your file to be, taken over to the solicitors that are able or willing, set up to progress your transaction. I heard some good news this morning that the Nationwide was looking into introducing desktop valuations.
Yes. The same, yes.
Taking 3 weeks to approve. At least that's an example of the way the industry wheels are turning in the industry to try and help people. We all want to help people get to where they want to be. It's just that the circumstances that we're operating are so extraordinary and so fraught with risk.
Yes, but it's great to hear that people like yourself are running a business that is trying to help people move forward and give them the right advice in their situation.
Yeah, we're trying.
So it's wonderful to speak to you about this today. I'm waiting for more questions to come through. We've had another one. Can you move right now?
Well, people are moving right now. It's really for you to work out if you've got the money, if the source of funds is secure, if you've got your solicitor, if your property is not in a long chain, then it can all go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if someone's exchanged but not completed yet, I guess that's you're saying the same thing. If the property's vacant and there's no reason why you can't move in, as long as people abide by social distancing and all the hygiene.
Yeah, that's right. What the government is asking us to do is to, where contracts have been exchanged, is to attempt for the parties to attempt to vary those contracts. Bear in mind, if you're in a long chain of 12 interdependent transactions, that's a lot of work. But the idea is that if all parties in the chain are willing to postpone, then completion, the purchase is secure. It's just the completion is postponed to a point where we're working in a safer environment, where everybody in the chain can feel comfortable that the mortgage funding is secure, and that there'll be people there to move them, and so on. Okay, and that people's jobs are secure as well.
Sure, absolutely, And maybe, would you advise perhaps looking at people getting into rented accommodation if they really want to keep everything moving?
Well, I absolutely would. It's always the case that if you're able to break the chain, it's a big upheaval and an expense. However, it enables you to feel more in control of the process. And in the present case, I would say if you're able to, complete a sale and move into some temporary accommodation, then yes, that when things pick up, you'll be in an even better position if you've been able to pull that one off.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that leads me on to I was going to ask you, what would you suggest people do in terms of using this time to get ready? What people could do, perhaps if they were thinking of putting their property on the market.
Oh, well, music to my ears. If you're thinking of putting your property on your market, just get in touch with your solicitor, your conveyancer, and tell them, because people often don't do that until they've actually agreed terms. But especially if you're selling a leasehold property, it can easily take 8 weeks to assemble all the information that you need to put out a watertight conveyancing pack on the sale of a flat or a maisonette, 6 weeks even for just a freehold sale. So get that work underway now, and there'll be plenty of time to get it all together, and then you can tell your estate agent to market your property as contract ready. Is that the term?
Yeah, and I guess really, when things do lift, which they will do, then there will be a surge to the market. So people like yourself are going to be busy catching up. So if people get ready now, then they'll be all organised. And I guess we're mirroring that as well at Power Bespoke, in that we're saying to people, we can do a sales advice meeting, give you all the advice and support we can now, so that we can get as ready as we can. We can launch you onto Rightmove with, pictures coming soon with a description. But people can do virtual viewings. We've got vendors who are actually really loving taking people around their property and doing a virtual viewing, which makes so much sense when we have a lot of people who can't or find it difficult to arrange a time when both partners can attend a viewing at the same time, if one's on shift work or got a young baby or something like that. So virtual viewing is a really good way of viewing a property in the first instance anyway. So that's what our advice would be: get prepped and get onto the market, because things will lift and you want to be ahead of the game. So I guess we're singing from the same song sheet there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so get organised.
and also relations relationships come into this as well. And, you know, people sometimes think it all happens with mirrors, I think, but there are people involved at every stage of buying and selling a property. And, you know, if you can build good relationships, preparatory to, you know, putting your house on the market or looking for your, you know, let the agents know what you're looking for and they will tip you off.
And also
when
shop around with agents and find the agent that you think is really going to deliver when it comes to actually marketing your property. Quiz them well, what can they offer against other agents? So yes, so get organised. I mean, one thing I'm trying to do is declutter my house and do all the things that I've been meaning to do, because I don't want to get to the end of this period and go, I wish I'd done that over the last 3 months. So a lesson for us all, I think. Well, Julie, it's been fantastic speaking to you. I think as things change almost on a daily basis, then it would be really useful to do more discussions like this. I guess we'll see what questions come through, and we will be very happy to answer questions after this broadcast. But thank you everybody for tuning in. You can find Julie on her website. I'll link the website address, and obviously us for Power Bespoke, we would love to speak to you. We're just here to give you advice. All right, thank you, Julie. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.